Today. I'm Assemblyman John McKeon. Now, it's not often that one of New Jersey's most powerful politicians and the Garden State duo of Jersey-licious divas have occasion to mix it up on the same television show, which is why I'm getting excited to be Jersified with the reality TV glam goddesses of the Gatsby Salon, but that's later in the show. First, I'm extremely proud to introduce a woman of first. She's the first woman to serve as Senate Majority Leader, the first woman to chair the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee, and the highest-ranking Democrat on the Assembly Budget Committee back on that part of her career. To top it all off, she's a great mom. Senator Barbara Buono, welcome.
Wonderful to be here.
And I didn't mention my friend. That's another important part of things. Thank you for being here, Senator, and you've been involved in so many issues. In the time that we have, we couldn't even scratch the surface, but I know one that's a priority of yours is education. Where are we?
Where do I begin? New Jersey, in education, I really do believe that our educational system is under attack by this governor. Last year, well, let me back up. A couple years before, under John Corzine, we passed the School Funding Reform Act. I sponsored it in the Senate. And it really, for the first time, I thought
money was going to follow the kid.
Money was going to follow the kid, not based on where they lived, but on their needs. And it was going to, for the first time in my mind, in the Supreme Courts, was going to actually fairly fund every kid in New Jersey. This governor, in last year's budget, just walked away from that funding formula. Now we're before the Supreme Court, and our fate is in their hands, and we don't know what they're going to decide. But the bottom line is that in last year's budget, this governor cut about $1 billion from public education. And, you know, we have some of the highest performing schools in the nation.
Wonderful schools in New Jersey.
We do. Now we have some that are low performing. And, you know, we definitely need to address that. But we have been closing the achievement gap. And I think that the answer is not to disinvest in them, not to abandon our public schools, but to invest in them and to build them up. You know, strong public schools, I think they're really the cornerstone of a democracy. I like to call them the great equalizer. You know, I know that I would not be here today if, you know, I came from a, you know, middle-class family, had a good public education, went to Montclair State College at the time, and Rutgers Law School, and if I didn't have those opportunities, I wouldn't be here today.
Well, let me segue to, like, last year was a terrible year, and good, bad, or indifferent, ultimately that was the budget that was passed, and we know the multiple millions that were pulled from education. But now we're dealing with this upcoming year in something known as vouchers, in effect giving a corporate incentive to fund as much as $800 million toward allowing students in city schools just to take that money and go elsewhere. Big picture, what do you think? Well,
you know, on so many levels, I'm opposed to vouchers. First, I think in terms of the Constitution, I think it really creates a legal fiction to circumvent the First Amendment. That aside, what it does is it siphons money from our public schools that are already, you know, suffering, reeling from the budget cuts from last year. Any child that gets a voucher and it's taken from a public school, the money that's dedicated to fund that child will be taken out of the public school and follow that child to the private or parochial school.
And there's restrictions, because not every kid can sign up. Someone that has special needs, for example, they're not eligible.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. The parents are actually required to sign a waiver saying that, hey, we realize that our child is not going to receive the services that they will need if they go to this school. You know, if I were going, as I said, we're right before the Supreme Court now, arguing on the fact that we did not fund our school funding formula. I almost thought
I heard you say if I was governor, but that's another question. Go
ahead. We didn't fund our school funding formula. And I would say, if I were going to the Supreme Court, if we have enough money to fund these vouchers, to siphon more money from our corporate business tax, which is where those vouchers will be coming from, then we ought to be able to fund our public schools according to the funding formula. You know, the debate, the discourse in the state of New Jersey has become so heated, so, you know, really divisive. And I think that, unfortunately, that really undermines our ability to sit down and, you know, do our job and have a discourse and come up with, you know, real solutions to pressing problems. Do we have public schools that are not performing? We certainly do. But there's no such thing as one size fits all. We have some large schools that are working and some small schools that aren't working. We have charter and parochial schools that are serving kids well, and we have some that aren't working. So I think to become overly simplistic about this and say, oh, we cherry pick kids and take them out of some schools and put them into private schools, it's not going to solve the issue.
And it's very interesting that you say that, because you mentioned the parents signing them up. The special waiver piece aside, parents signing them up shows you that the kids in the urban setting that are going to take advantage of this have the advantage maybe of parents that have the wherewithal to move them in that direction. But most of them don't, and that's what the issue. They don't have the issues at home. So you're going to take the best students out of the urban schools and get them out and exacerbate the problem.
And not only that, but I agree with you 100%, but I also have a problem with saying, what's that message that you're sending? These are the bad public schools. Come to the good charter or parochial schools. What does that say about the children, the majority, as you said, of the children that are left behind with less resources to teach them, the children at greatest need? It's
so,
just
Senator,
wrong.
with all your experience, what's I don't say the answer, but what are part of the solutions as it relates to, doing better in the schools that aren't superior?
Well, I thought you were going to be asking me about funding, which I will talk about. But, I think that what we need to do is we need to focus on what's going right. As I said, last year we had our national assessment test showed that we had some of the highest scoring kids in the 4th and 8th grades. We need to, focus on what's working, replicate it, learn from that, and, also, we have to adequately fund our schools. And I thought you were going to ask me about the millionaire's tax.
Well, the money, and the truth be told is if there's going to be some adjustment with the public sector and maybe contributing more to benefits or whatever might happen, whether it's through collective bargaining or otherwise, everybody should have some shared sacrifice here. And the millionaire's tax is one of those thoughts.
No question. And as you know, we passed it last year in the legislature and the governor vetoed it. And that would have provided about $1 billion so that we could have restored some of these very important programs. As you said, I was chair of the budget committee for 2 of the most difficult years in the state of modern history in New Jersey, 2008 and 2009. The bottom was falling out of our revenues. We didn't know where it was going to stop. And we were able, I know about belt tightening. We were able to cut the budget back significantly, which we had to do. But cutting a budget, you look at it line item by line item and you see what a program costs, but you also see what a program saves and what a program creates. And I think it's important there are core values that I think that this budget needs to fund, which it didn't last year, and we have to find revenues to do it and cut where we need to cut at the same time.
And so it's clear with the millionaire tax, we're not talking about taxing on $1. We're talking about a tax on money after $1 million, which is, again, a matter of a very small percentage of very fortunate and people to be respected, but again, a part of the solution that we all need to be equally contributing toward.
Absolutely. No, it's true. And a lot of people talk about the state of Pennsylvania, how their tax structure is so much fairer, their income tax structure, and it really isn't. It's a flat tax. New Jersey's tax is graduated, and so those that make less pay less on it, and it actually works to the advantage of most of the people in New Jersey until you get over a certain amount. And again, as you said, it's just that amount of income over that threshold that would be subject to the higher tax of the millionaire's tax.
How, just to shift gears on you in the last few moments or so, are you enjoying it? Are you happy with what you're doing? You really relish the challenge? I know you have the persona that you do.
I do. I have a law degree. I practice law. This is
teaching some classes in law school
I'm teaching at Rutgers Law School. I'm teaching law and public policy, and it's let me tell you, teaching is not easy. My mom had taught many, many years ago, and so I know that teachers work very hard, and it's a challenge. But I'm there to do the people's work, and I think I'm up to the challenge. We certainly have a lot of challenges ahead of us in the next few months.
Well, with your intelligence and grace and ideas, hopefully the dialogue should be where it should, as you discussed, and you're going to continue to make a great difference for our entire state.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, and continued great success.